Hello, everyone. This is Pastor Roland, checking in to see how you're doing. I want to talk about a couple of little items today that you need to know. First of all, you need to know that I'm a volunteer. I've been doing this for 25 years as a volunteer. I have a radio program, have had it for 25 years, going on 26. I buy the airtime myself. A few people help me, not very many. Okay, most people don't. A few do. So what that means is, mainly, I buy the airtime myself. Why do I do this? Why have I been doing this for 25 years? Well, because I was helped, and now I want to help others. Okay? Not because I'm a wonderful person, but because that seems to be what I do. And what I have to help you is I can show you how not to get upset so easily. All of my radio programs for the past maybe 6 weeks have been on the topic of not getting upset so easily. See, if you're like 99% of people, your problem is you get upset too easily. You react and overreact. But human beings are not supposed to be reactive. Human beings are supposed to be like Bugs Bunny. You notice Bugs Bunny's always calm. Elmer Fudd gets upset. Daffy Duck gets upset. Yosemite Sam gets upset. Bugs Bunny stays calm, which is what you need. Just think about the relationship that you have with your partner, with your kids. Okay? Just think how much better it would be, or would have been, if years ago you made a lot of mistakes. Maybe when you were young you made a lot of mistakes. You were too hard on your kids, or you weren't there for them, or something, or you were too much, or you pressured them. See, when you were a little child, you were pressured. Remember? Pressure. You couldn't understand why people couldn't just be cheerful and lighthearted, why they became mean and pressured you. Couldn't understand. But then years later, you turn around and did the same thing to your kids. See? So, I'm not going to go into the details of that now, but I'm just going to say that whatever your situation currently is, just think how much better it would be if you didn't overreact to things and to people. See what happens is we start off in life, maybe when we're in our 20s and 30s and 40s, and we're angry, resentful, willful. We want to make things happen. We're impatient, selfish. Okay? And so we basically make a mess out of things. But then what happens is the results, or the sequelae, or the ramifications, or what follows from our upsets. See, we then become upset at it. So you yell and scream at your kids, then they cry, or they rebel. Then that upsets you. Or you yell and scream at your kids and pressure them, and then you see that they're becoming timid and withdrawn, and then that upsets you. Then you try to rush and do something, and usually what you do messes things up even more, and then that upsets you. Or maybe you just just do too much for people. You always want to do something for people, always want to help them. See? And then when you help, the more you help them, the more spoiled they become, the more dependent they become upon you, then that upsets you. Or you have harsh words with your husband or your wife or your partner, then communication is not good. You go around resentful all the time. Your partner is resentful. And then the marriage is not so good, or if there's a divorce, that upsets you. Okay? And then all these things lead to what? Then you start having health problems from all of your tensions over the years, from upset and anger and resentment and bitterness and hurt feelings and striving and struggling. So you end up with health issues. Then you become resentful and upset by them. Then you have doctor bills. That upsets you. And see what I mean? So you have to stop that vicious cycle. You have to stop it somewhere. It's better if you could stop it sooner than later. That would be good. That would have been good. And if you're young now, maybe you can, with my help, with a little tutoring from me and my meditation, maybe you can learn to have a more calm approach to things, and then you won't make the mistakes in the first place. See, or you'll start to make the mistake. See, you'll catch yourself and then stop. Whereas in the past, you would have become all emotional and you would have continued with the mistake, and then then the other thing is that after you've made a mess out of whatever it is, then you feel guilty for being resentful and angry. So then you do another round of doing for people and helping and bending over backwards to be extra nice and trying to make up to assuage guilt. But once again, you see that that either causes people to become spoiled or dependent on you, or it causes them to run away, to escape from your clutching, clawing, and wanting see what you want from them is you want them to look at you and see you in a good light. And a lot of times they're angry at you. Your kids, for example, are angry at you because of the way you treated them. See? And so they don't want to see you in a good light. See? So basically, there's a lot to be seen, but you can't see it all at one time. What you need is a little bit of help. May I recommend that the help that you really need is from the good Lord. But how are you going to find help from the good Lord? A lot of people pray, prayers don't seem to be answered. A lot of times it's because we're just mumbling formula prayers, or we're mumbling and speaking from being lost in thinking and imagination. See, we're lost in that. See, there are two places that your soul, your consciousness can be. It can be immersed in thinking, immersed in fantasy, immersed in imagination, immersed in emotions, which is where most of us are people are all the time. Or it can be standing back, not immersed in thought, not immersed in emotions, not immersed in imagination. Okay? And when the soul is standing back, then it can observe thought. Instead of being a subject to thought, it's the observer of thought. It can observe emotions. And that observation is very powerful. Because, for example, if you get my meditation and then you're able to stand back and become objective instead of subjective. Then standing back, see, not only is your soul observing instead of being involved in, but it's observing. But it's observing in the light. See, in the past you were struggling in the dark, struggling with negative thoughts and trying to think positive thoughts which weren't true, and then the negative thoughts loomed larger, and then you resented them and became upset and then gave in to them and struggled. See, all by yourself, a lone little ego struggling. What you need to do is stand back and take a step back and observe in the light. When you see things in the light, God's light, in the inner light, then it's not just you, but you have the light. You're seeing it in the light. It's the difference between walking into a dark room and stumbling around, or walking into a dark room with a great big flashlight. You shine it on the light switch and turn the light on. Now everything is clear. See, the light is very... In the Bible, it talks about light. Christ talked about light. He said, I am the light of the world. Christ light. See, John talked about light. He said, God is light. God is love. See, and Jesus brought light into the world. So you have a dark world out. So you have a world out there where people are lost in the dark, stumbling around and struggling and confused. See, that's why you mustn't hate people anymore. It doesn't mean you have to feel sorry for them. That's just another emotion. But you can have a compassion by standing back and not resenting them. Don't hate them. They're lost. Your parents were lost. Okay? Your teachers were lost. Your coaches, they were all lost. They were all struggling and compensating. Oh yes, sometimes tremendous compensations with knowledge and degrees and money and cleverness. Very, very compensated. But they were also shallow underneath. See, they didn't have it. They hadn't found it. Otherwise, they wouldn't need to compensate. Christ didn't have to compensate because he had everything. So what you need then is a little basic training. May I recommend my 5-minute meditation and any materials that go along with it, like some of my YouTube talks are very good. To first learn how to meditate, in other words, how to stand back instead of being involved in the problems. Stand back, then you can be a part of the solution. The solution is the light. See, if you have a dirty towel's been laying at the bottom of a locker for a long time. Then you pull it out, it's all dirty, and then you hang it out on the clothesline in the bright sunshine. You hang it in the sunshine, and then what? Then it becomes fresh. The sunlight has a magical quality to it. So there's light, and even as the sun gives warmth and light to the plants, and they grow and flourish in the sun, even so your soul needs spiritual light and warmth. And it's there, but you can't find it when you're lost in thinking and lost in the imagination and lost in emotion. See, emotions are a false life. Emotions rise up to compensate for the lack of spiritual values. See, they're compensations. That's why your kids, they can see your compensations. See, kids are closer to the light. They see clearly a lot of times, and so they see. See, and you dads, what your kids need for you, they need for you to find that connection. See, even suppose that now you are, 50, 60 years old. Communication with your kids is bad. Maybe 40 years old, whatever. And there was a divorce, and see, but now you're older, wiser. Okay. Now you can't go running after your kids. They may not want. See, you can't run after. Be another pressure source on them. But what you can do is do first things first. Remember, Christ said, "Put first the kingdom of God and His right way, and all other things will be added unto you." So first, get right. Get right with God, as they say. Now, how do you do that? Well, get my meditation. Learn to sit quietly and get out of your tricky imagination and all of its false ideas and false rabbit trails that it leads you down and false values that it tempts you to pursue. See? Just stand back. Don't try to do anything. Don't try to change your life. Don't try to improve yourself. Don't try to make anything right. Just take the time to learn the simple art of Christian meditation, which I have for you free. Learn to do that. And then from that quietness, from that stillness, from that emptiness, see, then you will perhaps notice if you deep down in your heart you love truth. Not everybody does, you know, but some do. Then the other thing you can do is yearn. See, yearn for what is true, yearn for what is good, yearn for what is noble and innocent and pure. Yearn for the Father you've never known. See? And when you yearn, then God will answer. And the first thing He gives you is light. So that you can, see better. So that you can begin to look at some of the things, issues in your life, but now see them in the objective light of truth. So I think I've said enough in this lecture. I think I have. Either you hear me or you don't. Okay? And I hope that you will and have. My name is Pastor Roland.